I swear everyone's going to say that I'm a Suns bandwagon, but I am, in fact, a Suns bandwagon because I think we just saw one of the craziest finishes to an NBA playoff game of all time. Deandre Ayton, alley-oop, slam with 0.9 seconds on the clock, and then the modern NBA, they had to turn that 0.7 seconds of basketball into 20 minutes of TV time.
One eternity later.
With all the ads and all of the plugins as you can, the Clippers were almost caught cheating.
This is 4K! How did they get you at 4K?
They're at the end with a substitution fiasco. This was a wild game. It featured a broken, bloody nose by Devin Booker. It featured 2 clutch free throw misses by Paul George, a game-winning dunk, and so much more. This is going to be a fun one to talk about. My name is Sam. I'm with my buddy Brandon, and this is the Banter Podcast. Brandon, are you just as hyped up about this series as I am? Because I am loving what these two teams are putting on display.
Honestly, and I know we just put out our Paul George video. If he could take the Clippers
that
to the
one
next
aged
level.
like fine milk, dude.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this obviously wasn't the greatest game for him, but also wasn't the greatest game for Devin Booker as well. Didn't shoot that well, and I think it showed up in the stats. I mean, you look at the 3-point percentage; they only shot 23% from 3, only connecting on 6 of them.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Yeah, but the Clippers came up huge down the stretch. A few possessions went their way in terms of trading baskets with the Suns. They were able to get back in it at times when the Suns were trying to pull ahead. They were, able to cut the lead, like a 9-point lead, down to 4 or 5 at certain times during the third and fourth quarter. I mean, this was a very exciting back and forth game through I think honestly a good portion of the game. I know the Suns were again kind of leading throughout, but honestly, this looks like a very fun series to watch. Even though the Clippers are down 2-0. You have to imagine that they're going to be able to get one back in the Staples Center because they are in home court. Even though the reports are that Chris Paul and the Suns are optimistic about coming back for Game 3, which I think is going to be a huge boost for the Suns.
Yeah, it's like sending the cavalry when the team is up 2-0 going on the road. But the Clippers, listen, they've been down 2-0 before, 2 times in this playoffs already. So they're not new to this situation.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
And this is actually their first time 2-0 going back home instead of going to the road. So it's a very different vibe. But I want to take a look. I'm really glad that you're showing the head-to-head stats right now, because look at the quarters, the total team scores at the end of each quarter. Every quarter was decided by 3 points or less, and it was back and forth the whole game. Look at that. The Suns outscored the Clippers by 3 in the first. The Clippers outscored the Suns by 2 in the second. The Suns outscored the Clippers by 3 in the third, and then 3 in the fourth by the Clippers over the Suns. So it was back and forth. It was a tug of war all game long. At one point, I think the Suns led by 9 points. But
that was like the largest lead, which is incredible.
No team ever led by double digits. It was a wild game throughout the whole thing. Devin Booker was in some foul trouble, but Deandre Ayton and Cam Payne stepped up, dude. Cam Payne played out of his mind.
He did. Cam Payne, honestly, let's see how much he dropped today. He dropped 29, 9, and 1. I mean, he was 1 assist away from a double-double, but honestly, good for him because, if you look, he was an exciting prospect coming out of Murray State. I think he led them in scoring for a few seasons, and then Oklahoma didn't really work out. Then got traded to Chicago, Cleveland, went over to China, and then the Suns picked him up in the bubble, right before the bubble, and he's been playing well for them ever since. And he had honestly one of the games of his career, and took over when Devin Booker, the 20 points, he dropped 20 points, but he wasn't shooting that well. And honestly, Deandre Ayton, like you said, came up clutch. I mean, he was honestly one of the best players on the court for them. He was
arguably the best player on the court.
Yeah, he was.
Not just for them, but both sides of the court.
Both sides. I mean, he was hitting mid-ranges. He was able to, that first off, the first lob from Jae Crowder, when he dunked over Zubac, and then the game-winning dunk.
Caught a dunk from Devin Booker too.
Right. There was, he honestly, Deandre Ayton has shown that he is one of the best versatile centers because, it forces teams to play big because he could stretch the floor. He's also very quick. He's very mobile. He's agile. He's what a center should be like in the NBA now, is a guy that can do it all and have the quickness to, pop out on pick and rolls and guard the pick and rolls and be able to switch back. I mean, he's honestly played incredible throughout the whole season and including the playoffs as well, putting up ridiculous numbers. But honestly, one player I did want to highlight for the Clippers is Pat Beverly, just because he played some fantastic defense against Devin Booker. I mean, yes, the whole headbutt situation was one thing. Both guys ended up bloody. I mean, Devin Booker looked like Steve Nash.
Did you see the girl that was sitting in like the front row who happened to be wearing the Steve Nash shirt?
Yeah, honestly, it's like
that was prophetic.
It's just like romantic. It's romantic. It's romantic. That's what it is. Sports is romantic sometimes.
It's poetry in motion, dude.
It is.
But
it is.
You saw Pat Bev. I think he got some either his own blood or Devin Booker's blood on him because his headband was red.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to pull up a photo of that in post. But
I mean, his jersey was
red.
also bloody as well. I mean, but I think honestly he played some fantastic defense against Devin Booker, and I think really forced him into some difficult shots and not allowed him to get to his shots. But honestly, DeAndre Ayton and Cameron Payne really stepped up for them. Also, Dario Saric gave him great minutes as well. I mean, looking at his stats, I mean, obviously hasn't had a he's had big impacts in small spurts, but Dario Saric has honestly been a really good go-to guy for them coming off the bench.
Look how tight that rotation is. So they only played 2 guys at center all game, and that's DeAndre Ayton for 35 minutes, and then the other 13, Dario Saric comes in there, and it's like they don't even miss a beat.
That's true. I mean, he is 6'10", he's more of a stretch 4, but yeah, you take a look at the rotation, and it's incredible that the fact that they were only able to, that they were able to play undersized when the Clippers, they can add Boogie when they get to bring back Zubac. The Clippers did
they played Batum. Well. They played Batum at the 5 for a while, and that's why I bring that up. So if you wanted to switch to the Clippers side of the floor, I mean, they did keep it close. The game was decided by a tip and dunk with 0.9 seconds to go. The Clippers put up a fantastic performance. And that's not just Paul George, and we'll clown on him for a little bit.
Got him!
Because he missed those 2 free throws. We'll talk about that in just a second. But he played 41 minutes. Dude was doing everything he could out there for the team.
What more do you want from me?
And on top of that, you got Reggie Jackson. I'm kind of upset that it's not showing his shooting splits because I'm pretty sure he didn't miss like all game or something. Like he had some wild numbers there. And then just all the other guys, everybody contributed something. Terrence Mann had 8 points. Rondo had back-to-back threes in the first quarter. I don't know why they didn't really use him later in the game. That was a little confusing to me. I guess Patrick Beverly is just playing such fantastic defense.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Kennard down the stretch too gave him some valuable minutes in that fourth quarter, hitting a few threes of his own and then being able to dish the ball off and create offense for that team as well. But yeah, listen, this is going to be a fun series.
Look at how balanced that scoring is. We saw on the Suns side, it was like 3 guys had 20 plus, and then the rest of the team was just kind of trailing off a little bit. This team, you got, again, so many fantastic options, and the Clippers are proving that they are more than just Kawhi Leonard, because we're still not sure. It's probably unlikely that he plays at all in this series or in the playoffs if they do move on. But even though they lost 2 games, they put up a massive fight. But now is the time to talk about that last second of the game. Starting with,
it was wild. It was wild.
Damn, that's crazy.
Starting with the free timeout. Or yeah, we can start with the 2 missed free throws. Let's start with that because that's what allowed for this whole thing to happen. Like last 10 seconds in the game.
Paul George missed 2 crucial free throws. I mean, to be fair, Mikal Bridges also got a very good look in the corner. I thought, honestly, they were going to call a foul because he fell, and I'm sure they were going to call it something there.
Yeah. I think they're happy they didn't, looking back on things, just because it was more
probably. I mean, I just thought that they were going to call a foul because that's what, honestly, typical NBA refs do nowadays. And then they And then obviously the free timeout from, having to look over to see, how much time is left, who ball it was.
I think there were like 3 issue. I think there were 3 free timeouts. So there was one before the Paul George free throws. That's when Zubats wasn't looking at the inbounds play. You know which one I'm talking about? So basically what happened was Paul George was inbounding the ball, and then Pat Bev was
right.
and Zubats was on the left, and Zubats wasn't looking at the ball, so it kind of hit his back, and then Ayton dived for it, and then it was off Ayton. That gave both teams an extra timeout to look over things and make a play, and then that's the play that Paul George got fouled on and then missed 2 big free throws. I mean, you look at the final score of the game, he makes those 2 free throws. Who cares if Ayton makes a tip and dunk? It has to be that 3 from Bridges, right?
Right.
So that made it a 1-point game with like 5 to 7 seconds to go. Bridges gets a wide open shot. There's no excuse to missing that shot. Like, he could have been the hero of the game and not Ayton.
I can be your hero, baby.
But the ball goes out, and they give the team a free timeout. If the
It
Clippers
was a long
didn't
time
argue,
too.
dude, if the Clippers didn't argue it, think of how much harder it would have been to run that play.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have designed that play. And honestly, it was a perfect play because, Van Gundy said it perfectly during the broadcast. I mean, Devin Booker lays out for DeAndre Ayton, able to set the screen, and Batum has to decide whether to follow Ayton or to follow Ayton as a roller or for Devin Booker to pop out. He decides to stay on Devin Booker, which kind of costs them. I mean, to be fair, it was probably the smarter play, but
at that point, you have to trust your big man to defend the paint.
Yeah,
right? You got to trust that Zubats will get there in time and defend the paint, and also you got to trust DeMarcus Cousins to affect Jae Crowder's pass, because that was a perfect pass. That pass could not have been more perfect. Tom Brady is jealous of that pass, dude.
It was in the corner. It had to be a perfectly timed pass because Zubac was there. Like, he was there at the rim. Like, he was a step or 2 behind, but he was there as soon as he caught it. And it had to be a perfect lob pass.
Dude, if one of us was trying to throw that pass, it would have clanked off the bottom of the backboard. Like,
probably.
The angle of that pass was insane. Jae Crowder, I mean, Heat legend. Let's put that out of the way first. But I saw, or I heard rather, they were talking about, I think he went to 8 consecutive playoffs with 5 different teams.
Which is crazy.
Jae Crowder comes in there, and he's one of those role player vets that just joins a team and makes them better all the way around.
Because he's willing to sacrifice. He does so much on the offensive and defensive end. Like, he is one of the guys that, honestly, I think is one of the unsung heroes of the Suns for the whole season.
Yeah, there was one play in the second quarter. There was one play in the second quarter, I think, where the Suns got out-rebounded like 3 times on the offensive end. So, like, the defense, like, they were playing defense, right? And the Clippers got 3 offensive rebounds in one play. And then they just cut to Jae Crowder just grilling DeAndre Ayton, just yelling at the man.
Snap out of it!
And then DeAndre Ayton came back and dropped 24 and 14. And I don't know if that's the turning point that he needed to just, like, snap into that.
Because Ayton had, like, what, a 10, 12 point first quarter, so, like...
Yeah, I'm not talking about offensive. I'm talking about those 14 boards. Because I think he had, like, 10 points and 2 boards or something like that in the first quarter. And then he ended the game with 14 rebounds, which maybe were more valuable than 22 out of those 24 points.
Right.
Now,
let's just take a look at the Suns team, right? Let's take a look at the Suns team with Chris Paul. Obviously, Cam Payne's probably going to hit the bench, but that's just another dynamic for them to come off the bench, and he gives them so much offensive versatility now that and now the Clippers have to, as much as they're good perimeter defenses, they have to figure out, are they going to play Devin Booker or are they going to play up on Chris Paul? And that could also lead to a lot of wide open stuff for Jae Crowder, Mikal Bridges, or even Ayton in the post, or if he steps out. It's honestly, the Suns are in the driver's seat at the moment, and the Clippers are kind of looking back. Like
I got a controversial one for you. This might get a little spicy.
Sure.
If Chris Paul is available for Game 3, is it unreasonable to say Suns in 4?
No, because I would. It's not unreasonable, but I would honestly expect the Clippers to at least get one at home. I would honestly expect the Clippers to get one at home.
Okay, so then the follow-up question of if Chris Paul is not available, you would say it is unreasonable to say.
I think it would be unreasonable, and I said that in the Suns in that Chris Paul video. which I pretty much said if he's gone for the first 2 games, it's, it could be a toss-up between either side, which it has been. That has shown the first 2 games that it literally, this game was decided on a toss. All right,
literally a toss-up.
Literally, it was literally a toss-up. That was literally how it was decided today. For game 2, but I think if Chris Paul, if he's able to come back for game 3, which is a lot of optimism for it. He's already in LA right now. He's self-isolating. He has to have a couple tests come back negative, which I think he has, or at least one of them has come back negative. I think if he doesn't play for, let's say, game 3 and possibly game 4, and the Clippers are able to get one of them or both of them, I think the Suns could be in trouble if he does miss the rest of the series. I'm not gonna lie.
You got me there.
Because
you don't want to let this Clippers team get momentum.
Yeah, and this Clippers team has shown that even without Kawhi Leonard, that they have the depth and the quality to still keep up with a Suns team that has also depth and quality, but I think just a little bit better compared to what the Clippers have.
And you saw Ty Lue try to take advantage of some of that depth with 0.7 seconds left in the game. That 0.7 seconds was the longest 0.7 seconds I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Pause.
0.7 seconds. That took 20 minutes. And the reason for that, for anybody that was unaware or maybe was watching the game with the volume low and didn't hear what the commentators were saying, it's that even though they went to review Deandre Ayton's dunk, that was not considered a timeout, just an official review. So coaches are not allowed to make substitutions of players, so you have to keep the same team on the court. Even if they add time to the clock, you have to keep the same guys on the court, and neither team had any timeouts left. It was 0 timeouts total for the game. So Ty Lue tried to sneak.
Let's see, I pulled a sneaky on you.
Some of those better offensive players.
Reggie
Jackson in there. He tried to get Zubats off the floor. He tried to get Batum off the floor. The guys that are not really going to help you hit a full court pass and layup.
Because he was trying to get his centers off the court with, guys like Batum and Jackson on the court, and they couldn't because they weren't on
and so they really tried to take advantage of that depth. And you saw the Suns doing it too. I saw them trying to sneak Ayton off the court because they didn't want him accidentally fouling a guy like Paul George and letting him redeem himself at the line. But it was such a debacle. It's kind of funny when both teams are trying to cheat and then blame the other guys for doing the same thing. They start pointing fingers when they're both doing it. I mean, how hard is it to just look at a replay of that Ayton dunk and then just count the players on the court and just say, all right, you got to come back in, But it was a wild finish. It was one for the record books. And if the Suns move on, I don't know how much better momentum a team can have, especially if and when Chris Paul.
This is 9 in a row. They've won 9 in a row.
Yeah. They beat their bubble record in this year's playoffs.
That's true.
They are on a 9-game win streak.
They won 3 straight against the Lakers, 4 straight against the Nuggets.
And now 2 against the Clippers.
Yeah. And they could possibly, once again, win another 2 games, making that 11 games in a row, leading them to their first finals appearance since Charles Barkley and Chris Paul's first finals appearance as well.
This is incredible. It's a series to keep your eye on. Like we said before, this is probably going to be the series of this whole playoffs, the best one, most entertaining one, even if it only goes 4 or 5 games. Each game is going to be intense. Each game is going to be close. There's going to be drama. There's going to be theatrics, and we are going to be here to cover all of it. So if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We will be replying to some of them as we have on some of our previous few videos, and share it to all of your friends. If you're a Suns fan, share it to all of Phoenix Nation, and if you're a Clippers fan, then let us know your thoughts and get 5 of your buddies to come and back you up too. But this has been another episode of the Banter Broadcast. We're out. Peace.